What up, Buttercup? This is Caleb Jones, and this is the Alpha Male 2.0 podcast. Coming at you once a week from now, Dubai. I'm going to be in Dubai now for this is my new home. I moved here if you didn't know. I'm going to be here 6, 7, 8 months out of the year at least. And since moving to Dubai and announcing it about a week or so ago, I have been, as you might imagine, been flooded with questions from my audience about things like 5 flags and internationalizing your lifestyle and moving out of your country. And there is a point of confusion that I see a lot of people experience. Matter of fact, I myself experienced this confusion. And so in this podcast, I'm going to help you clarify your long-term or mid-term, or if you're very lucky and you're smart, short-term plans to either internationalize a little bit or dip your toe into an international lifestyle, or best case scenario, move out of your collapsing Western country if you live in a collapsing Western country. And when I say collapsing Western country, as always, I mean the collapsing trifecta, the collapsing USA, cuckoo Canada, and suicidal Europe, those 3. And first, there is the concept of 5 flags, which I've talked about extensively at my blogs. I have mentioned a few times at my videos. If you are unfamiliar with what 5 flags is, I will overview it very briefly here. But if you want more information, more detail on it, you really should go to calebjones.com and click blog. And there's a bunch of articles that get into much more detail about this than I will overview quickly in this podcast. But 5 flags is Alpha Male 2.0 on steroids. It is the top level of the video game. It is internationalizing your lifestyle, again, on steroids. It is not for most men. Matter of fact, only higher income men can actually make it work in a way where it makes sense because it's complicated and time consuming and expensive. But basically what it is where you spread out your life into 5 different countries or 5 different groups of countries instead of having it all in one country. First thing you do is you establish your country A. That is the country you live in, but not where you are a citizen. So you do not have a passport where you live in this country. You can have residency there. You can have full residency, permanent residency, but you cannot be a citizen there. That's your country A. Your country B is where you have a passport or 2, but you don't live there. You have citizenship, but you don't live there. Country C is a third country or group of countries where you base your business operations. And ideally, this is in a country that has 0 or low corporate tax. Then you have country D, which is where you invest. You put your investments. And if you're smart, you have multiple country Ds. I certainly do. And ideally, those are countries that don't charge you any sort of capital gains tax. And then an optional country E is a country, a 5th country or group of 5th countries where you buy your stuff. And you buy your stuff in a country that has 0 or no VAT or sales tax. So as you can see, when you do this, when you spread out things like this, several things occur. Number 1, your taxes drop to microscopic levels. If you're not an American, you can easily drop your taxes to 0% legally. I have known and met and worked with numerous non-Americans who did even a fraction of this and brought their taxes, their legal taxes, to 0. It's pretty easy. Now, unfortunately, if you're an American like I am and you hold an American passport, you are stuck with the most evil draconian tax system on planet Earth, where they will tax you even if you don't live there and even if you never go back there. And you're stuck with that system unless you renounce your citizenship. But you can still, under a 5 flags model as an American, drop your taxes way down into the single digits legally. It works very well. Now, as you might imagine, 5 flags is kind of complicated. It's time consuming. You're going to have to pay a lot of attorneys and accountants and advisors. It's going to cost a decent hunk of money. So in my opinion, there's really no point in doing the 100% full 5 flags unless you're making at least around $220,000, $240,000 a year. Otherwise, it's just not worth it. You're going to spend a bunch of money and you're going to save some money on taxes, but the amount of money you save in your taxes probably isn't worth the expense of doing all this crap. Now, certainly if you make $100,000 or $150,000, and you are 100% confident that in the next year or 2 or 3, your income is rising very quickly, and you're going to be at that income level, then it might make sense. Other than that, you should probably wait until you make those income levels. But here's my point. You don't have to do full 5 flags like I'm doing to internationalize your lifestyle. 5 flags is one thing. Internationalizing your lifestyle is something completely different. And for the rest of this podcast, I'm going to give you some examples of how you can internationalize to some degree and take a lot of benefit out of internationalizing your lifestyle and protecting yourself and things like that without having to do 5 flags. By the way, the benefit of 5 flags and or internationalizing your lifestyle at least a little bit is not just tax savings. There's a lot of other benefits that you can imagine under a 5 flag scenario, how safe you are, your long-term security. The reason I like 5 flags, other than the tax reason, which is my biggest reason, is that I follow the alpha male 2.0 tenet that I do not want to be reliant upon any one of anything. I don't want to be reliant on any one woman for my sex life. That's stupid. I don't want to be reliant on any one source of income. Since the 90s, we do not live in an economy where that's a smart idea anymore long-term. So that's also stupid. And I don't want to rely long-term on any one country for my livelihood, my lifestyle, my income, everything. If you think about it, if you're not doing any of this stuff and you just live in your country and work in your country and spend most of your time in your country, you are 100% reliant on that country to do everything right for the rest of your life. Your income, your financial well-being, your investments, your society, your culture, you're reliant on all these things for all of your needs. Doesn't that sound a little odd? Doesn't that sound a little dangerous to you? Because it would terrify me. I would hate that if I was completely reliant upon the United States for all of my sex life, all of my income, all of my investments, all of my entertainment, all of my social needs, all of my cultural needs, everything I could possibly want. I would be extremely nervous. Not to say that America is bad at all those things, or even some of those things. I just don't want to rely on any one country, especially a country like the United States, which is in a slow state of collapse right now. Fuck that noise. No thanks. But even if I was living in a country that was slowly on the rise, like Dubai, Dubai's having some trouble right now, but long term it's on the rise because it's in a perfect spot for international trade. It's going to benefit greatly from China's Belt and Road project and so on and so forth. But anyway, even if I was living in a country that was rising, I still wouldn't want to rely 100% on that country. I would want to spread the risk out a little bit. So 5 flags does that, but you don't need to do 100% 5 flags to do things like that. Here's something very simple. Start traveling more. Just start traveling internationally more. But Caleb, it's a hassle because of COVID. Yes, it's a little more of a hassle, but I'll be honest with you, international travel is always a hassle. It's been a hassle since 9/11, and that was 20 fucking years ago. So anyone complaining that COVID has now made international travel a hassle, that's really not true. It's always been a hassle, and it's still a hassle. It's not like it's 87% more hassle because of COVID. That's just not accurate. It's just a hassle. And yeah, that's just the way of the world. International travel is a hassle. But once you're there, who cares? Start traveling. Write out 2 or 3 countries. Do some research online and figure out maybe 2 or 3 countries that you're interested in and go visit those countries and stay there for at least a week. By the way, that should be a rule of thumb for you. When you visit a new country with interest of moving there or spending more time there or banking there or maybe starting a business there or even having sex with women there, whatever your goal is, whatever floats your boat, whatever turns you on, you should stay there for at least a week. Staying at a new country for 2 or 3 days is a huge waste of time. I love these Americans who have these big giant European trips and they spend like 2 days in this city and 1 day in this city and 2 days in that country and 3 days in that country and 1 day in that country. God, not only is it exhausting, but it's stupid. You don't get really experience a place if you're there for 2 or 3 days. It's ridiculous. Pick a city in a country and spend a week there, a real week, which means you arrive there and you have 7 full days or at least 6 full days to experience it. You don't count the travel days. That's important. And that's one of my rules when I started traveling internationally many, many years ago. And if you've read my blog and my travel articles, my blog over the last 10 years, you'll notice I do that. Whenever I go to a new city, I spend a week there, at least a week longer if I can, to really get to know that city as best as I can. And if I like the city, I'll go back and spend more weeks there. That's how I determined I like Dubai, but I like a lot of places. I love Paraguay. I love Hong Kong. I love Shanghai. I love Panama City. I love a lot of places, and I've spent multi-week trips in these places many times. But that would be step 1. Another step you could take is just open a bank account in that city. Just open a bank account there. Open a normal personal bank account. Now, unfortunately, again, if you're an American, it sucks being an American, but if you're an American, there is a law called FATCA, where the big bad American empire forces all banks doing business with Americans anywhere on the planet Earth to do a bunch of reporting back to the United States. And as a reaction, a lot of foreign banks just don't work with Americans anymore. As soon as you say you're an American, they go, sorry, I can't help you, FATCA. But if you're not an American, you won't have that problem. You can open a bank account relatively easily in most normal countries. Just bring your passport and all of your other information and open a bank account. Now, if you're an American, there are still lots of countries that will open bank accounts for you. Sometimes it's difficult, sometimes it's not, but that's some of the research you could do before you go. But just opening a bank account in a foreign country will make you feel really good. It'll make you feel like an international player, an international business owner, or an international financial guy. Just that's a very nice feeling. I remember the first time I did that. It was really fun. It was just a really good feeling to know that I had money in another country. Today, I have bank accounts literally all over the planet. I have a large spreadsheet of multiple bank accounts in cities all over the world, countries all over the world, bank account numbers and balances and all kinds of good stuff in different currencies sometimes. And usually I have American dollars in these banks. But if you want to get really creative and really risky, or if you want to do some more research, you can own foreign currencies as well. That's probably a more advanced step. But I'm talking here about first steps to basically internationalize your lifestyle and do things without actually going full bore 5 flags. Now, here's another thing you can do that most human beings or most men have never done. Have sex with women or a woman in another country. Most men have never done this. Most men will live their entire lives and never have sex with a woman outside of their borders of their own country. Isn't that sad? What a sad thing. Now, here's the deal on this. There are lots of guys in the red pill, or more specifically, the pickup artist world. I'm not going to name names. Many of you know who these people are, who basically travel the world and spend time abroad for that purpose. The specific purpose, or the primary purpose they do that, is to have sex with women. Particularly Western guys. Western guys, at least historically, have had a little more status in non-Western countries. So at least historically, in many countries, it's easier to get laid for Western guys than Western guys can get laid in their own countries. That is not quite as much of the case as it used to be, but that is still the case. And what I'm saying here is that I have never done this. I have never traveled just to get laid. I have literally never done that. As you know, if you follow my content, certainly if you follow my content for a long time, I have had no problem whatsoever getting laid with lots of super attractive women in the United States where I live or used to live as an American. It didn't make any sense for me to fly to Ukraine and have sex with hot Ukrainian chicks when I was already having sex with hot American chicks. Now, that being said, while I travel to other countries, I will partake. So if I'm spending a week or two in a new city, in a new country, in some faraway land from the United States, or in this case, Dubai, yes, I will go there and I will enjoy myself. Not every time I travel, but usually. And it's really nice. It's a really good thing, especially those South American women. And you guys who have had sex with South American women can relate to this. It's an entirely different experience. It is sex on a completely different level when you have sex with South American women. So my goodness. And that doesn't mean they have to have dark skin. When you get to South America, countries like Argentina, Paraguay, a little bit of Chile, they have white skin. They have South American or Hispanic features, but they have white skin. So it really doesn't matter what the color of the skin is, but my goodness, you want a wonderful sexual experience, go to Argentina, go to Brazil, go to Colombia. Hell to the yes. Now, it's not just South America. A lot of guys like Asian women. I have heard Western men complain that there aren't enough Asian women in their cities, which I think is a dumb complaint. But whatever, great. Go to Southeast Asia. I have said before, and I'll say it again, the easiest place to get laid for the typical white beta male, not even white beta male, Western beta male, even if you're not Western, frankly. I've had Indian guys do this. So I'll just say any beta male with no game, the easiest place on earth to get laid is the Philippines. So if you're just desperate for sex and you're just an uber beta and you're getting nowhere in life with your sex life, man, go buy a ticket to the Philippines and spend a week there and you will get laid like a goddamn rock star. They are the nicest, horniest women on earth, and they love foreign guys. My goodness. And you don't even have to be white. Although, as usual, it does help to be white, but you don't have to be. But that's an extreme example. You could go to Southeast Asia. You could go to Korea. You could go to Japan. I know white guys who clean up in Japan, and Japan has the most beautiful women on the planet Earth, if you don't mind small boobs, which I do. Everyone's into different things. But I could do a whole podcast on that. I won't. That's just another way for you to dip your toe, so to speak, into a more international lifestyle is get comfortable with having sex and comfortable with the process of getting to sex with women in foreign countries. You may be very, very, very surprised how easy it is. I have had numerous guys in my coaching programs, in the SMIC program and things like that, who tell me, Caleb, I was living in San Francisco or living in Dallas, Texas, or living in Chicago or living in Toronto and beating my head against the wall trying to get laid. And then I spent a week in Japan and I had sex with 4 different women who were the hottest women I've ever seen in my entire life, and it was easy. I can't fucking believe this, Caleb. Yeah. Or I went to Colombia, or I went to wherever. Yeah, that's how it works, or at least that's how it can work. And we're talking about normal dating here. We're talking about online dating. We're talking about day game, although with COVID, that's a little difficult, I understand. And certainly we're talking about sugar daddy game. And whatever floats your boat, whatever game style you like, do that. Do it at least once. You might like it. I still remember the first time I did it. I'm like, wow, this is really fun. This is really good. Now again, for me, at my age, at my evolution, sex is not the reason I travel internationally. I travel for business reasons, expansion reasons, 5 flags reasons, tax reasons. I don't fly to other countries for sex reasons. But like I said, while I'm there, hey, why not? So it's another thing you can do. Once you get comfortable dipping your toe in one of these areas, if you set up a bank or just spend more time in a country or what have you, or whatever you're going to do, once you get comfortable and you find a place that you like, because you will. You visit, I'll promise you something. In most cases, unless you're very, very anal, if you spend 1 week in 3 countries outside of your current country, the odds are good, in my experience, both my personal experience and my anecdotal experience with other people. The odds are good that you're going to find at least one country you really like. Just doing that. It's not like you have to visit 14 countries to find one you like. That's usually not how it works. Because usually you'll be interested in a country enough to want to go there. So the odds are decent you'll like that country. Most countries, and I'll be honest about this. This is true in my history. Most countries that I have targeted to go visit because I was interested in that country, it looked very interesting, I ended up liking a lot. It's unusual that I really wanted to visit a new country and I went there and spent a week there and said, oh, this sucks. It's happened, but it's unusual. So that's what I'm saying. If you just do this with 3 countries, you might not even need 3, but if you do it 3 countries, you'll find one you really like. The next phase, and this is not 5 flags. We're nowhere near 5 flags at any of these points. This is how any normal guy can get started at any income level. Once you're there, you could research how to get residency in that country. Not citizenship, that's complicated. But residency. Residency means you get a card and you're allowed to fly into that country whenever you want and stay there for as long as you want without screwing around with visitors visas or work visas or what have you. And as I've talked about in prior podcasts, that usually means within 60 or 90 days, you have to leave the country and then come back. And with a residency permit, you never have to worry about this. You might have to renew it once a year or once every 5 years or once every 10 years or whatever. Every country is different. But once you have that residency permit, you don't have to go through any of that crap. You can just go there and stay for as long as you want. And having a residency in another country, not citizenship, we're not talking about citizenship or passports, just residency. Having residency in a country, which is relatively easy for a lot of countries, is really good. It is a very good insurance policy in case you ever want to leave your current country or there's a severe problem with your current country down the road. To have that peace of mind, to know you could just whip out your residency card and fly to this other country and just stay there for as long as you want and relax and not worry about, I got to leave again and blah, 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 blue. It's really nice. I have residency now in several countries. When I'm done, I'll have residency in about 6 or 7 different countries. Residency, not citizenship. Make sure you understand the difference. But it's nice to know that I have these options. It's really, really, really good. And I'm very, very happy that I have these things. So if you just have residency in one country and have some money in a bank there, that's not 5 flags, but it's still internationalizing. You're an international person. And you could do that at any income level. You could be making $40,000 a year and do that. $50,000 a year or less. You could do that. Now, certainly, the ideal scenario is that you have your what? Your Alpha 2.0 location independent business so that you're making money completely location independent like I do, where you can go anywhere you want for as long as you want, whenever you want, stay there for as long as you like, and the money keeps coming in because you have decoupled your income from your location. That, by the way, as I've said a billion fucking times, is step 1. That's step 0. That's the most important step to all of this. There's no point in taking time to internationalize if you're stuck with a bullshit corporate job in your home country. Again, yes, maybe if you're a younger guy, you could go to your new country and get a job there. A lot of guys go to Asian countries and get employed as teachers, as an English as a second language teacher. Okay, fine. I mean, I guess that's a little less horrible than having a job, but that's still not Alpha 2.0. It's still a fucking job. It's not location independent, so I don't consider that a good option. Maybe 5 or 10% worse than your current solution, but that's still not good. You need to use all the resources I have, all the articles I have, the videos I have. If you want to spend a little money, the books and courses I have, and design your own Alpha 2.0 business and get your income up to the Alpha Male 2.0 minimum of $75,000 per year in USD pre-tax so that you can chill and live a life of real freedom. If you have $75,000 a year coming in on a regular basis, that's about what, $6,200 a month? Coming in location independent, you're on top of the fucking world. You can do pretty much anything you want in terms of your living conditions. Too many people are trapped in their countries, especially when COVID hit. I got the emails of guys like, oh my God, I'm stuck here. I hate it here. Now we're in lockdown. I wish I had followed your advice, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, too many people are locked into their countries, and you do not want to be locked into your collapsing Western nation in this era. If this was the 1980s, fine. If this was the 1960s or the 1950s, fine. Not now, not in the 1920s, not when the West is collapsing, not when the West is making this hard left into the Great Reset, not when there are massive COVID lockdowns all over the planet Earth, not when most countries, most large countries are leaning toward authoritarianism. This is not the time to be locked in financially to your own big, stupid, bloated, collapsing Western nation. Even if you never want to move out of your nation. And I know there's a percentage of you that don't. I don't understand you. I feel sorry for you, but okay, whatever. I love you. I love my audience. Fine. Even if you don't want to do this, I never want to leave America. Goddamn, I'm going to stay and fight forever. Great. If you want to be like that, fine. You still should have location independent income as a plan B, sort of bare minimum. You can move out of the city that you're living in. And you have the option, at least, of moving out of the country down the road if something really horrible does happen to the US, which it will, or Canada, which it will, or Europe, which it will. So you want this as an insurance policy anyway, even if you never want to leave. Even if this entire topic of this podcast, I don't want to internationalize, this is stupid, I'll just stay in my country and I'll just make it work. I really hope you have location independent income. Matter of fact, there's a YouTube video I've got on the 6 things you must do if you're going to stay in your collapsing Western country. And item number 1 on that fucking list is to get location independent income. By the way, I have taken that to the next level and I recommend you do the same. I don't think you should have long-term your location independent income coming mostly from the Western world. It is one of my big objectives. That is probably the biggest objective, financial objective I'm working on right now over the next 3 or 4 years. One of my big objectives, probably my biggest one, is to have only 40% of my total income to come from the collapsing trifecta, United States, Canada, Europe. So United States, Canada, Europe, I want to be able to run a profit and loss, a combined profit and loss statement from all of my companies showing where my income is coming. And the total income from United States, Canada, and Europe totaled up should be less than 40% of my total income. Then I'll be comfortable. That way, when the West collapses, which it will in our lifetime, I will lose some money, but I'll be okay. Again, if you are 100% reliant, where 100% of your goddamn income is coming from Germany because you live in Germany, or California because you live in California, oh my God, I would not want to be you. This is not a good place to be. Not now. Again, if this was decades ago, no problem, but not now. So if you're really smart, you'll develop your location independent income and have the bulk of that be from outside the West, or at a bare minimum outside of the country in which you reside. So if you want to stay in the United States for the rest of your life, God help you. But if you want to stay in the United States for the rest of your life, great. You have location independent income through your own business, not a job. A job does not count. Through your own business, you don't live anywhere near a major city, and 100% of that income comes from outside of the United States. You're not reliant on the United States economy to pay your bills. Then, all right, you could make that work. You could probably make that work provided you do other things like I talked about in that one video. Make sure you have inflation-proof assets, et cetera, so forth and so on. So yes, but if you have location independent income and you live in France and 90% of the income is coming from French sources, that's not very smart long-term. I mean, it's better than having a job. It is better, but that's not long-term a good idea. I would be nervous with that setup. So there you go. The point here of this entire podcast is to get you to start thinking internationally and to remove the fear of when I talk about 5 flags, your eyes glaze over and go, oh my God, I could never do all that. I don't make enough money to do that. You don't need to do 5 flags to protect yourself internationally, to diversify your lifestyle. I've given you 3 or 4 very, very, very simple things you can do that are doable at just about every income level that are nowhere near 5 flags. Please think about that and start doing those things if you haven't thought about it before. Now, one last thing. For those of you who do get excited when I talk about 5 flags, for those of you who are making, a decent 6-figure income, or you've broken into 6 figures lately, I know some of you guys have. A lot of guys have made a lot of money from COVID. A lot of you online guys, a lot of you cryptocurrency guys, and now you've got real money and you're starting to make real money for the first time in your life. You want to do 5 flags. 5 flags is something you want to do. Double or triple that if you live in the Western world. And so I have many more resources coming this year to help you do that. And that is a strong suggestion from me. So if you are earning at least 100,000 or 200,000 a year, or you're getting into those ranges quickly, 5 flags should be something that you start seriously looking at right now. And the reason for that is, and I hate to say this, and it bothers me to say it, but it's true, 5 flags gets harder every year. This stuff, I promise you, is getting harder every year. Every country on earth, with a few exceptions, is cracking down more on residencies, passports, permits, foreigners moving into the country, things like that. 5 flags is going to be much harder in a few years than it is today. It is much harder today than it was 5 years ago. Trust me. Matter of fact, in the middle of all this, I'll give you one simple example. I was going to get a Paraguayan citizenship, not residency, citizenship. I was going to get a Paraguayan passport. Right in the middle of the legal process I was working on about 2 years ago, their Supreme Court ruled that suddenly you had to live in Paraguay for 9 months out of the year for a minimum of 3 years to get a passport. Whereas before, you could just visit there once a year and you could actually get a passport. So many people started doing this and joining this passport program that the government started cracking down on this stuff. This happened right in the middle of me working on this. That's the kind of stuff that happens with this 5 flag stuff. So if you have any interest in 5 flags or internationalizing your lifestyle, don't wait. This stuff is going to get harder as time goes on for numerous reasons. Political reasons, geopolitical reasons, collapse reasons, COVID reasons. You need to get working on this stuff now and start digging into this stuff now and starting the process now. Plus, even if you do everything right, it takes a few years to get everything done, certainly. So I hope this podcast has helped. This is a very big, very complex topic. I will certainly have more podcasts, more videos, more articles on this in the future. I'm planning actually having a 5 flags course later in the year. You can look out for that. But if you don't want to buy a course from me, that's fine. You can consume my free content on this. This is an important issue. I want to make sure you give it the attention it requires. I will see you very soon. Have fun. Bye.